Here at home, the stress of this war, what Americans are reading and seeing, weighing heavily on the minds of Americans. We'll show you this. According to the American Psychological Association, almost 70% of Americans are worried that the invasion of Ukraine will lead to nuclear war and fear we are at the beginning stages of World War III. That from a Harris APA poll.
Yeah, troubling data there. Let's bring in our panelist for the hour. We're joined by former National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign, Hogan Gidley. Also with us, constitutional law attorney, Newsmax contributor Jenna Ellis, alongside former New York Congressman Peter King. Great to see our panelist here. We can show that number, again, that poll. About 70% of people, Hogan, are very fearful of what's to come. What do you make of that?
Well, look, I think Russia has nuclear weapons. They've shown a willingness to attack Ukraine and move forces into that country, and then also have used chemical weapons in the past. So I think it's a warranted concern to some degree, especially when you consider leadership here in the United States has been so abysmal at predictions, as Matt Gaetz pointed out in those hearings, not to mention the fact our readiness may not be where it should be because of sequestration and other things. So it makes sense that the American people are concerned about what's going on around the world and the potential for a nuclear war and another world war evolving because we continue to refuse to lead and shape world events. Instead, all we do is react to them. And that's a problem that starts at the top. The American people know it, and that's what you're seeing in those polls.
Jenna, Hogan brings me to my next point about 70% of Americans, according to this poll, fearing nuclear war, possibility of a start of a World War III. How much of that would you say, in your opinion, falls on American leadership, our political leaders, this current White House administration?
I think it's directly proportional to Joe Biden's approval rating. Listen, when Americans aren't confident in the leadership of the president of the United States, look at how awful he was yesterday in those photos with former President Obama and looking dejected, looking like he couldn't even get attention. That's not someone who the American people have confidence in, especially on the brink of what a lot of Americans are fearing is World War III. And so when you look at the people who are behind the scenes in the Biden administration, who are globalists, who don't care about our borders, don't care about protecting America first, and you have such a weak, feckless person in the Oval Office, then of course that is directly proportional to Americans' fear of how Biden is not going to be leading America strongly.
Well, let me ask the congressman about what we saw play out at the White House yesterday, because as Jenna alluded to, there was sort of a disconnect that we saw between President Biden and former President Barack Obama, almost ignoring him after the speeches were made. Congressman King, what did you make of what you saw at the White House yesterday, again, as Obama made his return to the White House?
I actually always had to feel sorry for Joe Biden. He was like the uninvited guest, like someone who showed up at a party and found out he wasn't invited. And the irony is it was his own party. So to me, this shows, the weakness he has within his own party. But getting back to what a gentleman, Hogan said, I agree that his uncertain leadership has hurt us. But even more than that, he's the one who keeps bringing up the talk of World War III. He's the one who talks about an all-out confrontation with Russia. Anytime a new weapon system is mentioned, should we give them the MiGs? Should we provide more weaponry? He says he doesn't want to start World War III. So he's the one who really is engendering a lot of that fear within the American people. Now, it's a legitimate concern. I'm old enough to have lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, so I saw how concerned people could be. But again, there was more definite leadership then. Right now, it's an uncertain leadership, but it's also, whenever he's in doubt, he goes back, he plays the card of this could be a nuclear war if we don't do it just the right way. So he is, to me, largely responsible for that 69% number, again, among Americans. It's understandable, but he's pushing it much more than it has to be there.